The big news of the week was GBDC getting their SEC decision, and a little bit on the positive side. But what does it actually mean for price action? Everyone's been looking at charts of Bitcoin and whatnot, but there's an actual chart of GBDC where you can look at it right at the source. So without further ado, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little Labor Day holiday over here. I expect that things are going to be more or less boring and sideways. It is indeed my birthday as well, but none of that redacted stuff over there. I do want to let you know, however, that you can get a nice discount as we are offering 20% off on all of our programs and products. But I would humbly request that if you're interested in any one of these things, please watch the promotional videos. I'll explain who they're for and who they're not for. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it and start off right over here with GBDC. So several things on GBDC. First things first, this was the big news of the week, right? The big news of the week. And in this case, news moves, generally speaking, retrace more often than not. I've made a couple Twitter posts about this in kind of a flippant manner, so maybe I do regret that. But ultimately, the general idea of that does stand. Whenever you see a news pump or dump, works both to the upside or the downside. Generally speaking, these things do retrace. Why is that? Because constructive price action happens during more or less slow and boring times without the help or need of these, really crazy headlines. I'll give you an example, in fact. Bitcoin all-time high at $69,000. Very nice number, by the way. But what was it on? Coinbase, or maybe it wasn't Coinbase, but it was one of those things. $65,000 was Coinbase, right? Bitcoin went down from there. It went down a significant amount, more than 50%, I do believe, from about $65,000 to $30,000. On that first new all-time high in 2021. So it's like, what was the news? Well, the news got retraced right there now, didn't it? Don't even know how to interpret it. And then, of course, when did Bitcoin bottom? FTX. Holy shit. How does that work? How does that work? Anyways, with regards to this over here for GBDC, it does look like they got a more or less positive decision. And long term, yeah, that probably does matter. That's generally speaking a good thing long term, fundamentally speaking. But as far as short term, the pump pretty much did retrace. Yes, indeed. But while that is happening, it is very important to understand where things come back down in this current retracement, and if it is going to once again put in a constructive higher low, as we have seen basically since December of last year, with this first higher low right here, then this higher low right here, and maybe another one right here. You can see that it's essentially been marching up and above that yellow moving average, just a yellow 21 exponential moving average in this case. And of course, the longer that Bitcoin, or the longer that GBDC kind of sits here, especially coming into the next week and the week after that, this mid portion of September, without breaking down, this is going to look a lot like a nice higher low in the making. So I do put a time frame on that, basically mid-September. If this one is going to break down, I fully suspect that it'll happen, before the middle of September, whatever the third Friday is of September. Let me actually check on my calendar right here, and then I'll explain why the third Friday. Yeah, that's going to be the 15th of September. Why is it the why is it that one? Because that is quad witching. And what is quad witching? That means it's a major expiration, and a lot of the time we do see reversals around that around that date, or significant pieces of price action around that date. So anyways, in the background here, it does look like, based off of this past week's closure, which yes, GBDC is closed for the week, there is a drive of phantom hidden bullish evidence. I'm usually not like super convinced by these sort of things. But of course it is within there. More importantly though, what do we see on top of that? We do see that volatility is increasing right here. Again, what seemingly is putting in a higher low. And there's a very obvious pivot point on this one for GBDC. It's 17 bucks even, just 17 bucks even, as long as it's above there, especially for these next like two and a half weeks till whenever that date was that I gave out earlier, just the third Friday of the month. That would be the big one to be mindful of. If GBDC is still above there, this is going to look a lot more likely to try to the upside rather than the downside. On top of that, if we go ahead and check out stochastic momentum, we can see over here weekly time frame actually going to be positioned to the downside based off of this past weekend's closure. Now at 19 bucks, you can start to see that it is curling around that bullish control zone, but I'm really curious to see if this comes down significantly coming into next week. If it does, that would be the next sort of piece of the puzzle for the boo laws, that hey, if it continues to hold sideways here, it's going to be that same sort of interplay that we saw near the end of August, where it was kind of a similar thing for spot Bitcoin, where it's like, hey, Bitcoin going sideways here for about 5 to 10 days. if that, if Bula is going to hold sideways, very likely you start to see bullish resets, and very likely you begin to see a nice upside move, which is actually what we saw based off of this right here. So kind of similar interplay with that. But again, must hold the $17 pivot. Below there, things do start to change around, certainly for GBDC, and I suspect Bitcoin spot as well, and we could very likely look down much further. And in fact, if and when that does happen, you're going to see me start to turn a lot more bearish in the more immediate term, if you will. For right now, I'm neither bullish nor bearish. I'm trans, actually. I'm looking at this as a trans, and I'm looking at this as a trans. I have a hair transplant, so I can say that. But more or less, it's a transitioning market, neither bull nor bear, which was a very interesting topic of conversation that we had on Spaces last night. It's like I couldn't get through to these very highly esteemed analyses that I'm not bullish nor bearish. Is the market still bearish after finding a low? I would argue no. Is the market still bullish after finding a high? I would also argue no. Crazy, fucking crazy, man. Anyways, yes, we got that. We can go ahead and get into the HPDR over here. I made a quick tweet about this yesterday. We can see that the range has actually flipped around a little bit. We can see the current bottom side of the 50% range lows coming in at very low 25,000 now, 25,200 or so. It looks like maybe a smidge below there, meaning that Bitcoin, might see another push down around there, but I would be looking for a bounce around that region and then very likely oscillate sideways for the rest of this week. And again, it is a holiday, so generally we do see sideways price action for the most part. Not always. Sometimes you do get breaks here and there. It does happen, but it is a lot more rare for sure. And again, the top side of the range coming in at 26.5, and I do believe that I said for the month of whatever this month is, September. For the month of September, I do think best case scenario for Bitcoin, you might see somewhere around 27 to the upside, 27,000 that is to the upside. I think at best Bitcoin is going to be sideways for September. At worst, we see a significant downside move probably in this next couple weeks spread. All right. Other than that, I want to get into stochastic momentum. Then we'll actually go over some on the higher term timeframes. I'll go into much more detail tomorrow, but I do want to reference it for right now. CME has closed the week obviously already. It's going to continue with the weekly downside momentum as Bitcoin did close below 29,650. Five-day time frame has not closed yet, but it is closing tonight on spot price action. In fact, that's going to be something that I really want to reference tomorrow, because this can really heavily guide at least my more short-term analysis if I should be bearish coming into tomorrow's open. But for right now, still showing a downside pivot as long as Bitcoin's below 29,720. And of course, I do want to go back to this over here, this trendline regression that's been governing the last few lows going all the way back to June of 2022 for very significant bounces, in some cases, the current cycle low. It will be officially hitting that one on the next period. So if we start to see this number come down a lot, that's at the point where, again, I'd be saying, hey, around that midpoint of September, if Bitcoin has failed to break down, I would be looking for this one to play out to the upside. Until then, yeah, pressure does remain to the downside in the more short term. 2-day time frame is going to be flippy floppy here. Again, very much in the critical zone as long as Bitcoin's below 26,100. Not so far away from there, but is certainly below there by about $300, which is a lot when volatility is basically zero. Daily is showing downside momentum below 25.9, which Bitcoin's about $100 below as of right now. 12-hour time frame is going to also be showing downside momentum below 27,150. 6-hour time frame is going to be showing actually maybe a twist to the upside here above 25,600. 4-hour time frame is going to be showing same thing, 25,720 current pivot, and hourly is going to be showing upside above 25,690. So what do I get from this? Very, 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 very little. Probably sideways, maybe tests, maybe does something like this for the old LARP lines, tests down there, puts a wick in, pops back up to, around the average, and seeing that it is a weekend plus holiday, I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually something very similar to this over here that we saw more recently. Definitely possible right there. I really only get bearish on a shorter term time frame if you start to see closures below like 25,100 that is. And at that point, let's see where the next daily range low is. That is actually all the way down at 23.5. So, you know, if we do see a dump out, I mean, it will be significant, absolutely. But still, right now, I'm not super convinced just yet. I suspect we're going to have a lot more clarity on that situation, hopefully for tomorrow night's closure. Or sorry, coming into tomorrow off of tonight's closure. I really want to see that 5-day pivot. Where is that one out tomorrow? If it's still super high, yeah, I'm going to be bearish for these next couple weeks. If it's coming a lot closer, you know, a lot more proximal to current price action, okay, we'll start to have a pretty strong chance, actually. Again, probably just have to hold for another couple weeks, but it'll start to look a lot better in their favor. So I guess that'd be another like 3-5 day closures. Anyways, I'm just flippantly talking around now. I should actually go back on over here because I'm older and grayer. Did I write that? What the fuck, man? I do have a lot of gray hairs, actually, not just on my face or my beard, but also my sack. It's not good, man. It's not good at all. Anyways, yes, I do want to address questions that do typically come alongside the Krown quant automation. This is essentially a YouTube script. I've actually shown it many times on this channel before. I'll actually post a video on it later this month, most likely. It's just so quiet right now, it doesn't really matter. But it is it's a TradingView script that basically allows you to create and backtest and maybe even automate, if you so desire, strategies through TradingView to your own account, which is, in my experience, really fucking nice. Except for when price action's boring as well, and there's not much to do with it. So fair enough. Anyways, I think I'll cut things off right there. As always, want to wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Sunday.